Many students develop anxieties about deviating from the writing codes and other rules that have been handed to them from the school system. Frere's banking system, which is used in many schools, has caused many students to stifle their creativity in order to create work that they hope will be deemed acceptable by their teachers and other academics. Though we may want to alter their language to fit most academic discourses, some of their own languages must be maintained so they can preserve a sense of self and a source for personal creativity. Anxiety of grammar can be seen as a type of writer's block when it is defined as Martha Cohn does as the internalized system that native speakers of a language share. To use the term native speakers is to delineate from the fact that the language may be understood in different ways, but formal grammar comes with the strict guidelines making it inflexible and stiff. This grammar is what Hartwell labels Grammar 4, the grammar that is taught within our schools. This is just one of the 5 grammars that Hartwell categorizes as subparts of grammar. Grammar 1 is the innate and inborn grammar. Grammar 2 is the linguistic study of Grammar 1. Grammar 3 is the usage and verbal etiquette. Grammar 4 is the subset of Grammar 3, but it is taught in school. And then Grammar 5 is stylistic or heuristic grammar. Grammar 1 through 4 are not the standard native tongue, which makes grammar frustrating and almost impossible to write. When Tamara was writing about bounce music, she inserted the term "feelin' ourselves." It was a term she felt expressed the way her and her friends felt when they were listening to this music and dancing. It was a term that held meaning for her, though it may not hold the same meaning for us. Looking at this, we felt compelled that it should be corrected to the formal grammar rules, but we restrained ourselves when we came to the realization that the meaning would be lost and would no longer be equated to pleased with oneself. Though the term is so complex, it can extend to other realms. We had not experienced what she had, and to change the term would have taken it from its true context, the true meaning of what she had felt, and put it in terms that we understand. This was an example of what James Baldwin refers to as Black English, a language that holds as much legitimacy as what is deemed proper English. According to Lisa Delpit, the language they use at home and with friends is essential to their views of self and must be maintained. But she says to engage in dominant discourses, they must learn the grammar and language that is used in dominant discourses. A combination of both is needed. While teaching at Greed, we encountered instances in which fear of grammar, along with other factors, impeded our students' writing. In the case of one student, she was so enthused to get her writing out as quickly as possible that her finished product was in no way relative to her actual ability. Even though there was a time limit present, her writing would have been more skillfully constructed if it were not for the anxiety about grammar. This is seen repeatedly with some of our other students as well. Rose also faced this issue of fear of grammatical error constraining students' writing. In one case, with a student he dubbed Martha, she was just forcing her work out to meet the deadline. Therefore, her writing was significantly impeded upon by grammar rules and some other psychological factors such as stress and audience awareness. While there are many instances in which students may be alienated from their writing, unease about grammar appears to be one of the major ones. To illustrate the anxiety that can develop from grammar, think about whether you would ever begin a sentence with because. If you have the urge, do you suddenly stop yourself? This is a grammar rule that constrains many of us and impacts our writing. As found in the separate cases of Mike Rose, Patrick Hartwell, and Robert H. Bentley, when facing the dilemma of using the word because, their students replaced the word with punctuation so they could avoid having to use the word. Similarly, Colette A. Diute's analysis of errors made by college students shows that errors tend to appear at the clause boundary, which suggests a short-term memory load and not conceptual deficiency as a clause error. These students just wanted to complete the assignment in haste, so to avoid the difficulties that trying to utilize the word because would bring. These students' issues with grammar isn't an issue that applies to them alone. In this exercise, one should try and insert grammatically correct words into the appropriate spaces. You will find that simple words and phrases become difficult to put in. That tiny bit of frustration you may have just felt with this exercise is how they feel on a larger scale. One may want to change the order or phrasing of the sentences to make it more coherent, but we are constrained by the specific guidelines handed to us. If we are permitted to change these guidelines, and these children are permitted to write in their native tongue, the task becomes simplified and easy to comprehend. When one student, Deja, was given time to just free write about a topic without any grammatical restrictions, she produced a tale that was not only vivid with her own voice, but was also with limited grammatical errors. Her tale about Fufu the dragon was captivating and amusing, as well as written with enthusiasm and complex language structure that her article that she was assigned to write lacked. Though major concerns about grammar may impede on the writing process, cases like Deja's Fufu illustrates that there is an internalized grammar which Hartwell refers to as Grammar 5, stylistic grammar. Herbert W. Seliger says, "Rules are of no use, but some people think they are. And for those people, assuming that they have internalized the rules, even inadequate rules are of heuristic value, for they allow them to access the internal rules they actually use." Deja used the rules that would usually be deemed as inadequate to delve into the internalized rules she already possessed. An experiment performed by W.B. Elley, I.H. Barham, H. Lamb, and M. Wiley illustrates the reason why Deja was able to compose such a colorful prose. In this 3-year study performed in New Zealand, it was discovered that children who studied traditional modes of grammar improved neither writing quality nor control over surface correctness. As Harris remarks, for some time now, most compositionists have held that a focus on error can often block the attempts of beginning writers to form their thoughts in prose, and indeed, that the explicit teaching of grammatical forms usually has little effect on the abilities of students to write fluently or correctly. Here we learn that the traditional modes aren't necessarily the best modes, but another problem arises when the mode for utilizing internalized grammar rules is skewed. It is in these cases that there is a need for some level of teaching grammar rules, but not to the extent that they inhibit writing skills, which is the danger with banking and following strict algorithms. As Harris's main point is, so while we can't teach for correctness alone, we also can't not teach for it either. While these children need to be guided, they don't need to be stifled. It is our job to guide them, in more of an exchange where both parties learn and benefit from one another.